Welcome again to Kingdom Calls, and this is covering the All-Ireland Senior Championship. Kerry face a huge game and a huge task this weekend when they will play Tyrone on Saturday evening at Croke Park at 5 o'clock. And of course, Tyrone are old adversaries, and there's been bitter rivalry between the teams. Wasn't so much back in the 80s, but certainly developed in the noughties and ever since, under different managers, three different managers, Mickey Hart in particular. In recent times, Kerry have had the upper hand. I think 4-3 or something, or 5-4 is the official meetings we did do at senior level. But of course, we suffered a loss to Tyrone in Newbridge last Sunday in the All-Ireland minor final. And they have beaten us in the 20 final as well. So at an underage level, Tyrone have had the upper hand. At senior level, it's slightly different. But it still makes a next Saturday's game appetising. And I just wonder about 5 o'clock on a Saturday evening why they're dragging so many Kerry people to Dublin, the likes of Clive who may not come home till Monday. Now, look, a man who I look here at who always comes home on time. And this is John Kennedy, former All-Ireland medal winner, 3 All-Ireland medals in his back pocket, would you believe? 84, 85 and 86. I always struggle because I've been trying to say 1884, 85, 86, but no, it's only a short time ago in John's eyes. And John obviously is involved in analysing the game on Radio Kerry, and he's on Terrace Talk, regular with Liam Brosnan, and we always listening to him and turn down the sound. But yeah, John has a great knowledge of the game. And did you ever play against Tyrone? You did.
86. I did, 86. Yeah, 86, yeah. Well, yeah. I was a sub in 86, but I played against them in the league. You know,
they're tough.
They're in a great run at underage.
Yeah. Was that the day Pat Spillane got there?
Yeah. It was the missed penalty.
Yeah,
and I suppose it was a lifeline for Kerry.
Yeah, were you lucky to get out of jail that day?
I think if they scored the penalty, Kevin McCabe, if they scored the penalty, I think it would have been, it was 7 or 8 point lead. I don't think we'd have come back.
You'd have only 2 in a row.
2 in a row is right, yeah. But
it
was a super performance and started by Spillane, and you know, Mikey and the lads, was a great victory.
Very good. John is back with us again. John O'Dowd, freelance sports reporter, does a lot of his work with the Kerry newspaper. I have to say that because his deputy editor, one of his bosses, is sitting alongside him. John, welcome.
Thank you.
All the way from Tarbert. And next to him is the newlywed man himself. He took the plunge recently, and we're delighted for him, obviously. He's also the deputy in the Kerryman, writes forthright about stuff. His 5 talking points every week are closely monitored by the Kerry management team, and I'm sure Jack's rant was aimed at him allegedly a few weeks back, but the fact that it said ex-Kerry players just rules him out because he comes from Dua. Anyway, moving on swiftly to a man who is a coach in his own right. Well, he drives one anyway. No, he doesn't. Coach with the various academies up along, and has been involved, of course, with Ardfert. How did he get on the final last year? Oh yeah, he lost that. Coached Ardfert last year to a county Premier Junior, yeah. And he's involved in all things football, very knowledgeable man. He does tell untruths occasionally just to get us going. So when he talks, you've got to be careful to make sure that he's not trying to tell us the porky. But as I said, very knowledgeable. We better get cracking, boys. John Kennedy, I'll start with you. I'll start with John O'Dowd because you were at Jack O'Connor's presser on Monday evening. So give us a rundown on basically what he said. First of all, I'd like to say that rather than a spiky Jack, we had a really laid-back Jack. In fact, I thought only what a place he sat with a table behind him, he could have fallen backwards. He was so laid back, really relaxed, etc. Maybe, beating Armagh and getting a good performance out of the way was in his mind. But he did outline another litany of injuries. How are we fixed?
Yeah, I'd say the reality is potentially there's no real difference from what we went out with 2 weeks ago against Armagh. Thomas Sullivan is out. with the calf injury after he picked it up after about 20 minutes against the Orchard County. Massive loss, all-star defender. Just adds to the absentees. Diarmuid O'Connor still out. Barry Dan O'Sullivan, of course, is out for the season. And then there's 4 other players who are back doing a bit of training. But as yet, until we see the naming of the panel on Thursday night, we will have no idea whether they're back in the fold. I'd imagine because he was a sub 2 weeks ago, Paul Ganey will still be in the squad. Whether he's fit enough to start, though, remains to be seen. Jack pretty much indicated that he's not taking a full part in full contact or stuff like that. And then you have Mike Breen, Tyg Morley and Tony Brosnan as well. So potentially you're working off the same players that you used 2 weeks ago.
In terms of Tom O'Sullivan won't start.
Yeah, but I suppose Paddy Clifford probably is in a position to start this weekend, which he wasn't 2 weeks ago, and that would be a tremendous boost. But yeah.
Would you think that Paul Ganey is still in that kind of, that Conor Callaghan will use him if we have to sort of mode?
Yeah, like obviously I think if they had needed to bring Paul on against Armagh, if their backs were to the wall and they were under the caution, they needed someone up front in the full forward line to produce a moment of magic, they would have used him. Now, hopefully the 2 weeks has helped his shoulder injury and he's in a much better state. But as we saw with Diarmuid O'Connor and shoulders, you just do not know. And I think Tyrone are in the very same position with Michael McKiernan, who's an absolutely outstanding player. I don't think they're in a position to take a risk on McKiernan as well this weekend. So whatever it is like about shoulder injuries, it's not the same as a leg muscle injury or or an ankle or an ankle ligament injury. Sometimes it's just a shoulder. Even the physios, they might think you're okay to try it out, and then you do try it out and it just goes again. So I think Kerry will be wary, but of course they will want Paul Ganey back.
John Kennedy, now that we know that we're without 6 or 7 players, basically, a lot of them could be starters as well. And certainly that weakens our bench. And one thing you can say about Tyrone is based on their win over Dublin, they've got a much stronger bench, and they have lads like McAlone and Rory Canavan that came on, Micheál O'Neill, Conor Moyler. I mean, they have lads coming on, and we're looking at who we're bringing on. Now, Evan Looney came on and did a great job. He may start, he may not. I mean, we have a vacancy now in the back line. The one thing that I saw during the week which disturbed me, but I couldn't read too much into it, is Dylan Casey was swimming in a swimming pool not too far from here the other night. Would that be unusual?
I wouldn't think so much, I suppose.
Part of recovery, maybe?
Yeah, part of recovery, non-weight bearing exercise.
I hope he's not injured.
You're in the pool, and stuff, and fellas relax.
I couldn't go in there. I had to just look around the door in case he'd see me.
Yeah, but it's, as you said there, with Tom out, it probably, what will they do? Will Evan Looney come in, did very well the last day, but it's the impact.
Would they put Graham in the half-back line, maybe? Gavin in the centre, Brina Begley
I
one
think if
side.
they were going to play Graham in the backs, that had done it before now. Seeing that they haven't done it, I think the last day was probably his most effective game in the role.
You could bring in Micheál Burns at number 12.
Could, yeah. But I think the more injuries, John outlined.
Plus Paddy Clifton's got to get a place.
There are serious injuries for big players. And, I suppose particularly like Paul Ganey, Mike Breen, guys that were starters.
Do you know who could start there? He did a lot of league work there, Sean O'Brien, and put Mark and Joe at midfield. And then you can leave Graham, Paddy and Shawnee Shea in the half forward line.
Yeah, we have a lot of options in fairness, but the strength and depth of our panel is certainly being tested to the limit now.
Yeah.
You'd have to say that, to be fair. Mm-hmm. And I suppose the impact you get off the bench, which is crucial in the game, in the new game that we have now, the intensity, the work rate, we saw it in the minors last week, players drained with 10-15 minutes to go. Have you somebody to spring that's going to make a difference? Yeah. We're actually, the more that are out through injury, the less impact we're going to have. But, it remains to be seen. Tyrone, it's the total opposite to the Armagh game. We were speaking about it there a while ago, there, Clive and myself, is that you were going up in hope for the Armagh game. Now there's a huge optimism. It's the total opposite. Yeah,
it's a total, and they're coming in under the radar. Damien, look, I don't know, did you see the Dublin game? But my reading of the Dublin game, I haven't watched it again yesterday or last night, was that, and looking at the analysis of it and watching it, and picking things up. It just looked to me as if Dublin should have won that game. They had plenty of opportunities. They butchered a couple of goal chances. They turned the ball over. In the first half, the first 4 scores that Tyrone got were 4 2-pointers. So we got to be wary of that 2-pointers. It's a roundabout way of asking you, do you think that Tyrone are as good as they were, or are they still a team, a work in progress?
I would say they probably are a work in progress, but they're a work in progress in the way that they might be in the position that we were in 2 weeks ago, waiting to explode, waiting to have that big performance. Now, could Dublin have beaten them? Yeah, absolutely. I think Dublin did not, like I say, they pushed their chances. Their conversion rate was poor. Not the first time this year. I think Dublin's conversion rate against Meath, I think, was dreadful as well.
And against Armagh.
And against Armagh. So we're not going to have that issue. Nor are we going to... Dublin kind of spurned 2-pointers, basically.
Yeah.
Davy Farr basically said, look, not that they wouldn't take, but that wasn't their priority, that they were going to try and work. I think Kerry are set up for 2-pointers, so I think we'll be able to match fire with fire in that instance.
Yeah.
Um,
Con didn't play, he came out for like 20 minutes.
Exactly.
Calf strapped. It was a desperate measure, really, and it didn't work. He kicked a point, but he tried a 2-pointer and went wide, and his last attempt was into the keeper.
Exactly, and John, you said there that it's a completely different situation from the last day. That I don't know that we've swung in Kerry from pessimism to optimism, and maybe too much optimism. And if you're Tyrone, you're waiting in the long grass, and I just think that might just suit them down to the ground. Like most people, I think I when the draw was made, I was like, yeah, I think Kerry can beat Tyrone, get to an All-Ireland final. But the closer you get to it, the more the nerves kind of kick in, and that sort of sense of when you start thinking about it, a lot of the issues that Kerry had going into the Armagh game, they're still there. Johnny and John have been talking about all the injuries. And I heard Michael Verney from the Irish Indo talking somewhere, and he was kind of asking the question, at some point, are all those injuries going to catch up with Kerry? I think even Jack said it in the press conference, reading the quotes, that there isn't too many teams in the country who could cope with that.
Yeah.
Is that going to catch us? Is that going to bite us at some stage? I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah. Clive, that's a fair point by Damien. What's your view on the fact that Kerry are, in somebody's words, I don't know if it was Jack's words or whose words, maybe it was, that we're down to the bare bones, really. Like, Kerry are struggling on the bench to have lads with experience that can come on. There are young fellas who come on and they'll give you their best, but we don't have a bench the strength of Tyrone, no way. And then, can you touch on the rivalry between the sides? They don't like us, and we don't like them, and that's a fact. And I don't mean to the point of hating, I'm not talking about that, but if there was one team in Ireland I'd like Kerry to beat anytime, and it's not Cork, mind you, because I have Cork connections, although Dowdy ended up there commentating, drinking Beamish, eating Drisheen, and down at the Cork and crew beans during the week. He left us, deserted us, but anyway, we'll get back to that. Now, what do you think? Do you think the rivalry is there? They'll want to upset us. Remember what happened to the Gooch?
I think the first point about the bench, I suppose before the Armagh game, we were wondering what would come off the bench and how would they react and what sort of performance we'd get. And I think the lads that came on really answered that question. Evan Looney was on early, great bounce. Michael Burns came on, really buzzed around the place. So, Mark O'Shea came in, wasn't down to start, came in for the start. So they got great experience on that occasion. So we're maybe reading too much into we don't have a bench. I think the last day proved we do have a bench, despite the quality of players that we're without through injury. They're getting great experience, but they're also producing the goods when they were asked the last day. And we still had experience. The likes of Paul Ganey didn't come on. He was going to be there if he was needed. Paddy Clifford came on. So, maybe we're underestimating our bench as well. As regards the rivalry, just something I was thinking about that myself, and just up at the mine again. The last day, I know we're going to go on to the minors after this, but the Tyrone people were great people. They were around us in the stand. It was a great game of football. There was no rancor. I think, obviously, they irked us in 03 with the style, when they came and ambushed us, and we weren't ready for it. 05, we were more prepared, but they still beat us. And same in 08, they had the upper hand on that team, and it was a great Kerry team. And with Tyrone, it was a very good Tyrone team as well. I think the rivalry was made more by stuff that was supposed to have happened, or stuff that didn't happen, and support was making more out of stuff that wasn't. I don't think.
Would you take a drink of water from a Tyrone?
Well, I know two young Mitchell's lads, young lads who were at the game last Sunday, and Niall Morgan was doing the Mirishka for Tyrone, and they went home with two Tyrone water bottles, and they were delighted, and he had a great chat with them about all things football. And
were they empty or full?
I don't know whether empty or full, but I think too much is made of it, and especially since we have, we beat them in 12 in Killarney, we beat them in All-Ireland semi-final in 15, and All-Ireland semi-final in 19. So it's not like they're a bogey team. We've gone up to Healy Park in National League games and defeated them.
We scored a load of goals. It was this year, last year, or whatever.
We've gone up there when games have been on the line for both teams and come out with a win. So I think too much is made of it, of the rivalry. Of course, look, it's an All-Ireland semi-final. Both sets of supporters want to win. Both sets of teams want to win. And you're going to have, supporters in every club or every county that go over the top one way or the other with, abuse towards players or whatever. But
social media, forums, that sort of thing.
I think there's too much hype made of a so-called Kerry and Tyrone, and hatred is a strong word. I don't think it's there at all. Yeah. And it should not be used. No, it should not be used.
I don't think it should be used.
I totally agree with Clive there. The rivalry was there because they beat us, basically, 305 and 08. But there's no such thing as hatred between the counties. Yeah. I remember just a few short months ago when the under-20s lost the All-Ireland semi-final to Tyrone. And, of course, as Kerry people, we were gutted, and we were down in the tunnel, I think it was in Portlaoise, waiting to talk to Tomas O'Shea afterwards. And all the Tyrone players, they were full of beans and they were celebrating, and they walked down the tunnel. And they came and they waited outside the Kerry dressing room. And all the journalists were there and we were there. Lads, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? Why aren't you going away or celebrating or whatever? No. We want to Kerry jerseys. And we're waiting for the lads to come out here and we want to swap jerseys with them. And they were buzzing. There's huge respect between... There's huge respect between the two counties. And as Jack O'Connor said on Monday, there's an awful lot of things that Tyrone are doing right, especially at underage level. Yeah. And that filters up into the senior team down the line. It has to, because they're producing a real talent of footballers. And it's not just physical. It's not just the blanket defence, the word, or the puke football, the talk that was back in the day. It's nothing of the sort. Yeah. They're really good, skillful footballers.
But Peter Canavan is coaching in his school. A lot of the players who are teachers are coaching in their schools. They have a wonderful underage structure. Jack spoke about it the last day, and they're producing they won. It's the last 3 or 4 Hogan Cups they won.
They're 3 of the last 4 under 20 All-Irelands.
And the 20 All-Irelands won. And the one thing that Jack didn't mention was the facilities up there.
Garvahi and the Centre of Excellence.
They're second to none. I know I wasn't looking up. I know somebody who was up there and he was talking about them. He was around different clubs, even basic clubs like a Dr. Crokes. Well, no, Dr. Crokes is a bad example because they have pretty good facilities. But say Art Fert, they have wonderful facilities. I didn't say Art Fert.
But even just what Clive said there, he mentioned it there, that you'd Niall Morgan involved the minors the last year to have active players. I mean, it's great. Obviously, when you get former players coming involved in the development squads and on, to have an active player involved, I don't know that just says something about the culture.
I don't remember that there before. Is it? It's probably maybe has been in the past, but
like Damien said there, the effect that Niall Morgan has in that dressing room. He's a current. One of the top keepers in the country, top people of all times.
That was the next question I was going to ask you. So you preempted my question.
Can you imagine he's speaking to young fellas?
Yeah,
and he's with them today. And next Sunday they're following the seniors, and he's their idol. It's.
I'd rather be herding buffaloes out in the Wild West and trying to control you. We're talking about the minors later, so
we're talking about the culture of the
culture. Well, the culture is good, and it's good to talk about the culture.
Let's not forget that, because there's an awful lot of talk of teams moving on, and when the lads moved on at the end of the year, that's the end of Tyrone. Malik Yoru came in. He's a hugely successful manager at club level.
Yeah.
Was involved into county level as well.
With
And
Monaghan,
he is-
wasn't it?
With Monaghan, yeah. And he has moulded this
Monaghan
team.
manager has stepped down as well. Are you going for that?
Oh, not
Are you going for the Mayo management job? And Peter Keane hasn't signed a contract yet. Are you going for Clare?
Oh, look to them all now, I'll tell you.
Waterford, they're the manager job.
We say this now, Mort.
Yeah. You could
Less
sell
pressure.
bathrooms and everything up there
Less pressure now.
and fireplaces. Right, okay.
But you have to give credit to them. They have had a great conveyor belt of minors and under 20s coming through. But you look at Niall Morgan, Teague, Rory Brennan, Peter Hart, and Matty Donnelly. Huge experience. These guys are leading by example. I had an interview that Peter Hart was willing to do whatever was asked. To play if he was needed, not to play if he wasn't needed, but he's there for the cause. And you know,
two great pointers,
two great pointers
in the
he's
first
having
10
a great
minutes.
season so far. And
I don't think he has the pace for this game, though.
and the guys coming back, but the way they're playing in the system, he's in that zone around the arc. He has a huge experience. He uses the ball well. They have pace all over the field. Like John said earlier, McKieran's a huge loss to him. He's an all-star defender. He's the guy that would be on the marquee forward on the other side.
Outstanding football.
Outstanding.
We'll go to matchups in a second, but to me, the key area, and it proved it against Armagh, particularly in that golden 15-minute spell, is kickouts. If you're turning over, if you can turn over Morgan's kickouts, if you can gain possession or gain 50-50 with them, and you score from them, that's the winning of the game. If on the other hand, and retain your own, obviously, so short ones out varied by Shane Ryan being important. So John O'Dowd, tell me, were Kerry, were they just lucky the last day, or is it tactical genius that they had the four lads across? Graham was there, Mark was introduced because he needed to, against Armagh, to mark the 14. Murnahan, and he did a great job there knocking the ball down if he couldn't catch it, and we broke them. Will we be able to do that to a team as intense as Tyrone with two giants at midfield, Kilpatrick and Kennedy, isn't it?
Special plans have to be made for Niall Morgan, the way that special plans were made for Ethan Rafferty, because they're not just ordinary goalkeepers. They are as good, if not better, than a lot of their colleagues when they go out the field. Morgan could easily be playing midfield for Tyrone because he's that type of player. Rafferty is obviously one of the best players. And what we did against Armagh, number one, we spooked him on the kickouts for that 15-minute period. He could do nothing. But we also stopped Rafferty from having any influence whatsoever out the field, which would have been a surprise to people beforehand. He had scored 7 points in the previous game. He was that good. Like, Morgan is capable of scoring 2-pointers as good as any of the attackers that Tyrone have on the pitch the next day. So we got to stop him when he comes out the field. I remember 2 years ago going into the quarter-final against Tyrone. There was all doom and gloom about the Jack Barry, Diarmuid O'Connor midfield partnership. David Moran had retired after the All-Ireland of 22, and everyone said that the two lads from the Gael wouldn't be able to cope with Con Kilpatrick and Brian Kennedy. Mm-hmm. And they did an absolutely brilliant job that day. And Kerry comfortably dispatched Tyrone in that quarter-final. I think a lot of people will remember it for that audacious David Clifford flick when he was about to be hammered out over the sideline. I think he said he passed it to Tony Brosnan. It was just kind of a out of this world pass
under the cues
as he was about to be clobbered. I think that's what most people remember that game for. But Kerry were really, really comfortable winners that day. What Mark O'Shea, Sean O'Brien, Graham O'Sullivan, Joe O'Connor, they have to be equally as good on Sunday as they were in the previous match against Armagh, because I agree with the lads on what Damien said. Tyrone are entering this game in the exact same way that we entered the quarterfinal, as underdogs, as being talked about as not really producing a massive performance. Even though they went to Ballybuffet and they beat Donegal, they've beaten Dublin in Croke Park. They lost to Armagh by 1 point. They had one really bad off day at home to Mayo. That maybe there was a hint of complacency that day after Mayo had lost Cavan at home the previous match. But like from the very start of the year, Tyrone have been my dark horse to go all the way before a ball was kicked.
Don't be saying things like that.
I do firmly believe that with the players that are coming up in Tyrone, that they will win an All Ireland in the next couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
Now
More
again, I'm not sure it's going to be this year, but I do think, and I know the way Jack was talking on Monday evening, he's very aware of the threat, and it'll be a totally different threat to Armagh. They're a totally different type of team, and they play a totally different type of football.
Damien, the aggression and intensity, I suppose, is the word that they showed in the second half against Dublin, and that they've shown in the past. We know them. The Peter Teagues of this world, the Padraig Hemsley, and the number 7, McGeary. These guys would eat you, throw salt in you, and have you for dessert as well. They're unbelievable. They'll hunt you down. They didn't in the first half, and they got turned over a few times. But when they get the bit between the teeth and start hunting, they're going to be a threat for some Kerry. For some reason, Armagh stood off us and left us play outside the arc. These guys might decide to move out and compete with us much earlier once we cross the halfway line. But then you leave Clifford inside.
I was watching the Meath game, Meath and Galway.
Yeah.
And Meath were, at the start of the second half for 10, 15 minutes, much the better team. And then they got a goal. And then for about 10 minutes, Galway absolutely turned it on. Like you say, all that intensity, the tackling, and they were unbelievable for that 10 minutes. And it felt like the Meath chance was going to fall apart. But they couldn't sustain it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure any team is capable of sustaining that level of what you're saying for 70 minutes or anything like it. And
15, 20 minutes probably.
And again, go back to the Kerry game. That 15, 20 minutes was enough.
Yeah.
But, you know, the one fear I would have of Kerry is kind of I don't know, maybe John might be able to speak to it better, but kind of an emotional hangover, because I think that performance against Armagh was driven by hurt, by anger, disappointment with some of their own and things like that, and you know, you could feel that it was just an emotional performance, and like trying to get to that level again. How feasible is that? Is that a worry? We go back. I think we might have referenced it last week. The 2009 semi-final against Meath. You know, Meath are no. At that time, we're no Tyrone now, and Kerry struggled enough to get over it. Now, it was a bit of a miserable day in Croke Park that day, but the Kerry that turned up to play Meath in the semi-final was not the Kerry that had done the start of the weeks in Dublin. Yeah. So can Kerry get to that level again?
Yeah,
well, that might be an issue.
Yeah, and the thing is, I know you're not a man that follows the horses or horse racing or anything, but this is not about the betting. But there is a theory in horse racing. You know, you get a horse that runs, and I'm talking about top grade stuff now, runs and will win a race that they're not expected to win by 6 or 7 lengths and really great performance, and everybody's talking them up. And then the next time it's third or fourth, and it takes a while. It's called the bounce effect. Mm-hmm. In other words, you have that bounce effect, you have great performance, a dip. Like in a knockout competition, Clive, you can't have the bounce effect. Kerry have got to be in it. Matchups. Who do you think will take David Clifford? Who will take Seanie O'Shea? Will they play? They didn't play man-to-man against Dublin in the first half in particular, and they played, Dublin didn't play man-to-man either, mind you, and they allowed them kick from outside. Is it going to be a mixture of zonal and man-to-match? Man-to-man. You obviously can't leave the centre of the arc from the arc in. You can't leave that open because they'll go in and they'll poach goals. They've got pace, but their inside line didn't play well. In the second half, Dara Kahneman played well. McCurry didn't play well. So how do you rate matchups?
Yeah, I suppose John just touched it there previously. They have a very astute manager in Malachy O'Rourke. He'd been over Monaghan. He really brought Monaghan to national prominence. Winning in Ulster, they were very competitive with a small pick every year. They were Division 1. Drew with Kerry. He had a result against Kerry in the championship in 2018 in the round robin. I think he won a league game with Monaghan in Killarney maybe 2 3 years ago as well. So he won't fear Kerry, and he'd have for 2 weeks to look and get
He'd
his
have managed the
matchups
team
right.
against the Crokes with 5 or 6 Kerry players in them, hadn't they?
I don't think the Glyn played the Crokes.
Oh, they didn't.
No,
yeah,
no.
Yeah, you're right.
But obviously for David, he'll be looking at, size. Can he get a matchup with maybe Hampsey, Rory Brennan? Another player we touched on there. He's only been coming on and coming back from injuries. Conor Myler, who picked up Paddy there in the COVID semi-final a couple of years ago. Will he start and to go with Paddy? So he'll put a lot of thought into these matchups, and invariably, you've seen with the Glyn, at club level, Monaghan down through the years, he gets a lot of stuff right. On the other side, they have a lot of similar type players. McCurry is Derek Canavan, Rory Canavan. They're not the biggest, so who'll match up there with Kerry? Who will Jason take? Again, it's going to be down to video analysis by the management teams, who they deem is suited, who may have marked a player before and had joy in him and might be in the player's head that, he can't shake a particular player off. There'll be a bit of that to it. And, I suppose one thing, again, we can't really reference older games more so this year because there's new rules. They've made a dramatic change to the whole football scene. Has Kerry kicked 32 points the last day? You'd be saying, is there room for improvement? Is there more room for improvement in Tyrone? Or is there more room for improvement in Kerry? But we still conceded 24, which before if you concede 24 points, you were beaten.
Yeah.
Under the old rules, you very hard to win conceding 24. But we conceded 24 and won handy. The result was never in doubt. So probably a bit of looking at defensively, we coughed up a few chances as well that Armagh didn't take to tighten up there. I think that's where Kerry's focus will be on. Rather, the attacking side was excellent. If you put a goal with 32 points, you're in a good place.
Just on the kind of the notion of matchups, I know, John, you probably do it as well. During the match, you've kind of taken a note of, all right, he's on Clifford and he's on this, and you look
The
up
next
2
time
minutes
you look-
later, it's somebody different, and you look up again.
Yeah,
You would have thought maybe matchups would have got more kind of
I think
organised on this rule, but it seems to be just
a lot. What
straight.
happens is on, say, a kick out, a team is taking a kick out, a player will run for a kick out, or he goes to a certain spot for his own kick out, and once the kick out is taken, he just go to the nearest man because he's
stay there then until
and that's how for a couple of seconds or a play or two you might see, Jesus, he wasn't marking him at all, or the last play. So, and then they eventually go back to who they're supposed to mark and so.
But even like when you're saying it, like, oh, he scored 1-3, but actually
it could be 2 points off one guy,
Yeah, exactly.
and a goal off another guy,
So
and a
you-
point
I
off a
think
third
that
guy.
happened with Connaughton and Paul Murphy. I was watching it back, and Connaughton got a couple of points, but they weren't off Paul Murphy.
Yeah.
Paul was inside. It was one of the lads on the half back line that took him. So when they move around like that around the D,
I think Derek Hanavan is the biggest threat. Yeah, like I don't think he has fully shown his full potential at all yet in the Tyrone jersey, and certainly not in the championship so far this year. He's got 3 points from play, but I think, especially on a warm sunny day there's more open space than there was in the older game. I think he's really, really dangerous. I think if we can stop him from being a big influence on the game, I think we'd be well on our way to curbing the threat of a lot of what Tyrone possess. Like, even speaking to some of the Tyrone people as we were last week, Damien and Newbridge, like Rory Canavan is just not getting his game at the moment. He came on and got 2 points the last day against Dublin, but
that's kind of like a Thomas Kennedy thing.
Yeah, like he's not starting yet. From the talk was like maybe even Owen McElhone is closer to a start than Rory Canavan.
Well, if they're going to have Conor Myler in, they can't make vast changes. So I can't see
Conor Myler hasn't played a lot of football. He's recovered from a long-term injury, and
I can't see him starting, to be honest.
For him marking Paddy in 2021, remember in 2023 was different. Paddy got the better of him in 2023 in the quarter-final.
I think McGeary could mark him.
For him to go in now, what they will want is whoever is marking Paddy and David and Sean O'Shea. They'll want to niggle them. They'll want to frustrate them. They'll want to even instigate maybe a temporary loss of temper, loss of cool or something, just to frustrate them, basically, because they know they won't fully curb them it'll be a question of just trying to get under their skin.
John Kennedy, looking at Tyrone and looking at our forwards, how do you think our forwards will get on? Will they get the same leeway? Will David Clifford, will he attract a player in front of the defender that's marking him, right, Padraig? Or, he's done well against him. Does David Clifford need to play well? I mean, if he doesn't score, the number of assists he has are off the charts, really. So, what should our game plan be up front? Is it direct ball in to the inside line, vary it, or is it open up spaces and have Gavin White and Bruno Beglic, etc., coming through from the back?
Yeah, I suppose it's you look at the last day, particularly in the first half, David was playing very wide. He was taking 2 or 3 players, a lot of space inside, a lot of unmarked Kerry players, and we didn't avail of that. Shawnee did, but I felt there was more in us. Now, like Clive said there, the 2 weeks are going to be huge for the management teams, looking at the videos, recycling them and going back and looking over it and seeing. Obviously, David and Shawnee are going to come in for special attention. They're our 2 main score getters. And like you said about getting first time ball in, a lot is going to depend on the pressure that's put on outside. If our half back line and midfield are put under pressure, the quality of ball going in won't be as good. And the other side of it, Tyrone, their attack, there's a lot of rotation. There's a lot of movement, difficult enough to mark them, a lot of elusive kind of players, like Clive said, a lot of similar type players. But on their day, they're a player that is not playing well from is McCurry. We know the potential he has, he's a potential 6 or 7 points a game, man, and he'll be hurting from the last day. But it'll be a game, it'll be totally different to the Armagh game. And I think our display against Armagh, particularly at 15 minutes, will come in for special attention, special viewing, as if you were in the Tyrone management. What Kerry did, if Tyrone fall into that trap, the same thing will happen.
Yeah.
But I don't think it will. And Morgan will have a huge bearing on it.
I can't remember who it was, some podcast or on TV or something, and they were saying, just start a fight. Yeah. Do anything to breach
Philly
that.
McMahon said it, I think.
It was Philly McMahon. So,
you can't do that anymore.
You can do a certain amount, I'm sure.
I remember being at a match, just a small anecdote, back between Ungailtucht and Milltown Castlemaine, back in the day in the club championship back in Gallerus, and Milltown were flying, and Dara was involved in a clash at midfield, let's say, and Paul Hayes would have to take action, obviously, but in the meantime, down front of the goal mouth, Tomas started a row at the other end, so the ref had to go down there and split that and break it up. And by the time he got back up 5 minutes later, he decided to give yellow cards to both the player who was being fouled and Dara, and we all thought maybe Dara would have got red, but he didn't. So that starting a fight thing works, but under the new rules, it's too dangerous. Jack mentioned Monday, remember, like before you were able to, go down injured, but now the clock has stopped, you could foul.
And you have to leave the pitch for the next play.
Etc. Yeah. So it's not as easy to kill time as it used to be, as our coach there, Clive, knows, coaching Advert. You can't kill time.
I think Clive made a good point there of Kerry will look at can they improve from the last day in certain areas, and Clive mentioned defensively that we gave a few opportunities that maybe Armagh didn't take. I think we can improve up front as well.
Yeah,
like that might be strange after scoring 32 points, but if you look at it, the two Gainies, Connor and Dylan, will feel that there's an awful lot of improvement in them.
Yeah.
Dylan got a point even though he worked very hard for. Connor didn't score and missed a very good goal chance in the first half. So that's 2 of your inside forward line with David Clifford. So those 2 lads in particular will feel that there are more scores in them. If Paul Gainey's available, if Killian Spillane comes on, I think it would be important if Tony Brosnan is available as well, because he can give you an inside option and an outside option. and he can score from all over the field, really. So it would be good to have
And
him.
he can have 2 pointers.
It would be it would be good to have Tony available,
bench,
even if it is just to come off the bench. And like, there's definitely going to be potentially. How do we know how well young Tomas Kennedy has done in the last 2 weeks in training? He could be right slap bang in the middle of selection posters as we speak at this moment in time. You know, we spoke about will Evan Looney start the next day. Do you know, after the way he played against Armagh, why wouldn't you trust him to start the next day if the lads consider him the best option to replace Tom O'Sullivan? They obviously considered him the best option on the day against Armagh to replace Tom, so maybe he's going to be on the cards again without having to move Sean O'Brien or, you know.
Yeah,
they
might disrupt our midfield, which brings him back again, Damo. I reckon a lot of people are saying David Clifford, obviously Sean O'Shea, they're the most important players for Kerry. But on Saturday, I believe the most important player for Kerry...
You're going to say Joe O'Connor, aren't you?
No.
No? All right.
No, I'm not called Mystic Mutt for nothing. I am saying to you that Shane Ryan and his kickouts, getting them to short and long and getting them into the hands of Kerry lads. Now they'll have to fight for some of them, obviously, in breaking ball. That won't be his fault, because his shot stopping is unbelievable, right? And obviously there was a misunderstanding myself and Dylan Casey the last day, and that led to a goal. We can't allow that happen again. I reckon, despite the fact that you docked him points for it in your player ratings, I'm just telling you, 9.5. Can you imagine giving up a 9.5, like giving him a full 10? Did I mention that last week?
You did.
Yeah, okay.
Well, but I can't remember now off the top of my head, but I think you had him last week.
Yeah.
Kerry's retention of kickouts, I think 77%. I think.
Yeah.
Somewhere in and around that. He's not going to be able to do much better than that. If Kerry matched that 77%.
But he must do something around that, must he?
Yeah, I would.
That's what I'm saying.
We could probably get away with a little less, but I think if we match that, I think we'll win the game.
My point is, really, if we lose out at the middle third, I won't say midfield because there aren't any collisions. If we lose out at midfield, if we turn the ball over at midfield, Tyrone will beat us.
Yeah.
Is that a fair? Anybody disagree with that?
No. Yeah, that's how we won against Armagh. So
somebody disagree with me.
But I suppose
this is the first time ever.
You look at it. We said earlier, Mort, that Tyrone struggled to get over Dublin, which they did. Maybe Dublin could have won the game. They had chances, but
they should have won the game.
It's an ideal way to win the game. Anyone involved in the game knows it's very easy to get a team up when things are down. An awful lot to be worked on. The same as Jack and the management after the Cavan game. We won the game with huge improvement, and we got it. Yeah. If Tyrone get that improvement, it's going to be one hell of a match.
John, finally, turnovers. Oh, you have something to say?
No, I was just going to talk about the kickouts there. I don't necessarily think if you lose the kickout battle narrowly that you're going to lose the game. But like, even if we were 45-55 or something like that the next day, I would still be confident enough that we can win the game. But what I will say on the kickouts, if you can do a number on the opposition kickouts, I think the opposition kickouts now play a much bigger part than your own kickouts because they give you the momentum. If the other team,
it's the same thing though, isn't it?
No, I think in general.
Well, in the sense that your kickouts are their opposition kickouts, so it's the same thing.
But
you have to be good at your own kickouts.
Yes, but I think there's greater momentum if you can start spooking the opposition goalkeeper rather than winning your own kickouts, which a lot of the time you would kind of hope to or expect to. But if you can start what we did against Armagh, where they just couldn't get out, and then they're worried, and then they don't know where to kick it, and then panic sets in.
Our scoring return.
Like if you get the opposition kick out, I think you score more than if you win your own kick out.
I would agree with that, but that's also an argument for why you have to be really good in your own kick out.
6-1 half dozen in terms of if you lose your own kickouts, right? Or if it's 40-60, that means Tyrone will have the ball in around 60 metres from our goal, and they'll counter-attack and they'll score. Same as if we turn the ball over, their kickouts over, we're going to go and score like we did in that 15-minute spell. The kickouts at the moment, in the words of Maurice Brosnan from the Examiner podcast, which I know Clive doesn't agree with, he mentions that kickouts kill they'll kill a team's chances. And my point is that we must, Shane Ryan must ensure that Kerry have a 70-75% retention from our kickouts. You can't afford to and we need to turn over.
Yeah, but there's various factors that can kill a team's chances or not. Like if you kick 4 or 5 2-pointers in a row, you're going to kill off the opposition. If you score 2 or 3 goals,
Not if you don't have the ball.
if you were going to score 2 or 3 goals in a
But
row,
how do you get the ball?
I don't think it's as simple.
And if you score a 2-pointer, there's a kick out.
I don't
if
think
you kick it wide, there's
I
a
don't think
2-pointer.
it's as simple as we have to win 75% of the ball the next
Of
time.
our own kickouts.
I don't think that's necessarily the
But
case.
is it about?
I
Is it about
disagree
the,
intensely
is it
with
about
you.
the keeper adjusting on the day? Because look, Rafferty was one of the best kickers
Yeah.
in the game, and he kept kicking
He
the
kept
ball
kicking
out
it to Morgan out in
Yeah.
front of us and the Hogan.
The options by
Kept
the
doing it.
defenders looking for the short
Yeah.
one wasn't there. So Niall Morgan would have learned from that. If things aren't working with the long one the next day,
Yeah.
he
Just
needs
move it.
options to
Just
go
move it.
short,
Yeah.
get your hands on the ball and get
Well,
possession.
not even go short. Just go boom it
Just
down
go-
the
yeah,
middle.
but
But like,
and make it a
remember
slap.
Shane Ryan the last day? He took the short one to Dylan Casey. There was a mix-up. It resulted in a goal. It didn't stop him from doing the short ones afterwards. And in the second half, he did loads of those short ones to the very same spot, basically, where he passed the ball to Dylan
Because
Casey.
Dylan Casey was looking at it.
And this time,
and moved to it.
this time they reached their
But
intended
Armagh
target.
wasn't pushed up as much either.
Yeah. Intensity and kickouts and winning kickouts, to my mind, John disagrees with me, it's very, very important.
Well, it's not really.
I didn't say it was not very important.
Well, you said there's 2-pointers will do. Where you get the ball from a 2-pointer, I don't know. Where do you get it? Do a guy throw it in from a ball machine from the sideline?
But isn't it great though,
You've got
that
to
there
win
is
your
contests
ball.
now? Because it was
Yeah.
so.
No, it's not good for two lads to have a contest in the middle of a podcast. Oh, you mean
No,
under the play?
but like, because just the short kickouts before,
Yeah,
and
they were monotonous and boring.
and it was slow
Yeah.
build up, and it's no
Very
no,
quickly,
yeah,
the
sorry,
quiet man,
Clive. Yeah,
because he's already said meeting. What do you think of kickouts and winning primary possession? Is that important?
Of course, it's important, but I think I would say that if we got 50-50 on Saturday evening, we'll win the game.
So
Yeah.
55-45, 50-50.
We'll win the game.
What do you want?
I'd be the same. I think that we have the firepower.
What do you think, Demo?
yeah.
I'm gone. I'm leaving. I'm heading. I'm gone out of here.
Look, it's look,
Nobody.
it's a.
I stand with Morris
I
Dawson.
think Tomas J earlier
stand
there,
with
he might have
Morris,
changed
if you're watching
he might have
this,
changed
I
his
stand
mind.
with you.
Since,
I
but
stand
he
with
did
you.
say during the
We'll
during
march on the Dáil.
the 20s
Croke
campaign
Park.
that if you had
Now, lads,
less possession under the new rules,
we're 2 minutes.
there wasn't that direct correlation.
Yeah.
Basically, is
Yeah.
what he was saying.
Yeah.
But look, obviously, it helps.
We're 2 minutes overtime, lads, or maybe we're 7 minutes overtime, depending on what you look at. I need a reasonable, not too lengthy reason why you think Tyrone are going to win. Isn't that what you said earlier? No.
I think we'll win, Mort. I still think we'll win. It'll be a lot closer than people think. I
Yeah.
think it'll be a hugely tactical game. And
It'll
I
be
think-
battle.
I think it could be. I think it could be. Tyrone are in my mind, you're underestimating at your pedal. They have some fantastic footballers. A lot of the guys like John said about Rory Canavan and those guys, they haven't really fired McElhone, but they have huge potential. But I think I'd agree with Clive. We break even around the middle. I think we have the firepower above, because no matter what tactic you have, it's hugely difficult to mark Paddy, David and Shawnee and to nullify them. You might do it with one, you might do it with two, but can you do it with the three? We'll need more support. I think for the Gainies now, Micheál Burnsby's in there, Joe Connor, we need those to up it. But I think that after a tough game, much closer than a lot of people will think, I think Kerry will win.
John O'Dowd, who will never again, this is your last podcast, by the way. What do you think?
I would be very wary of Tyrone. I think while the last game was won a lot, as Damien said, on anger and emotion and feelings and backs to the wall and we're against the world, I think you can only do that for one match. This time will be about football. It will be about tactics. Will be about substitutions. Will be about taking your chances. It will be a game where Kerry win in a different way to the way that they won against Armagh. Forget about that 15 minutes. You won't see that again. You might never see that again by any team ever to have a spell like that. This will have to be a more consistent performance over the hour. I do think if Paddy's back to start, it makes a massive difference, because David plays better when Paddy is on the pitch. I don't think at this moment in time that they have anyone to handle David. I think he's a man on a mission. I don't think that mission is going to come to an end on Saturday. Kerry by 4 points.
Right, I think our producer gets nervous when I have to say there's a fire brigade going by, 2 fire brigades, because he thinks I'm going to mention fires and burning houses again, but I'm not. Damien, who do you think is going
I think Kerry are going to win. I have been, since the draw was made, I've been very confident. I'm less confident the closer we get to it, which maybe is a good thing. I do think it's set up for an ambush.
Yeah.
And I do think Tyrone are a county and a team
that relish an ambush.
That relish an ambush. They have a very good manager.
It'll be probably 25 degrees as well, so it's going to be quite hot.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Our fitness was superb the last day, but how much of that was driven by emotion as well? Like, so look, I do worry about Tyrone. You always worry about Tyrone, and like I think you said it earlier, and we're going to be talking about the minors in a minute. If this game was in 3 years' time, I think they're the coming force in football. They're going to emerge the preeminent force in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
But this might be the best time for Kerry to catch them. And as well, we tend to do okay against them. I know we lost the semi-final a couple of years ago. If we're playing them in a final, I'd be more nervous because I was talking to John during the week and Kerry have lost 6 All-Ireland finals in a row to Tyrone teams. So thankfully we were only playing them in.
And that's not even counting the Hogan Cup ones.
And that's not counting Hogan Cup or club championships or anything like that. Yeah. So they're dangerous.
Right, dangerous. Are they dangerous, Clive?
Absolutely dangerous. They're a quality team, quality manager. I don't think the results of the minor under 20s will have any effect on Saturday evening. Mm-hmm. I think Kerry will have too much firepower, too much class up front. Mm-hmm. Tyrone have quality players. I think we have the players in defence to mark the type of player they have. But David and Shawnee's display the last day party in from the start, hopefully on Saturday. I think it'll be Kerry by 4 to 6 points, and I think the likes of David and Shawnee, Paddy, with the new rules, they're enjoying it. And you can see there's a bit of freedom. They express themselves, roll out their skills. I think we'll see another performance where they shine, and we'll have too much class.
I don't think any of us would be shocked, though, Clive, if Tyrone won, would we?
No, I said they're a quality team, and they're quality all over the pitch. Kick-outs, 50-50, they have big men in the middle of the field. I don't think they'll make the same mistake Armagh made going the one trick poorly over towards Morgan. And they have, in Niall Morgan, they have an outstanding footballer, not a goalkeeper, an outstanding footballer, who will give us problems. But I think Kerry would have had a plan for Rafferty 2 weeks ago. If he came out the field, he didn't come out the field. And I think, it won't be, they'll have a plan again in place for Niall Morgan. But hard to see past Kerry.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm nervous enough, like Damien, about it, to be honest with you. But I think if we can get 50-50 possession at midfield, I reckon Kerry will win this game. Because 50, not 55-45, but 50-50 around the middle third, we'll win it. I have to ask you, and it's one word answer because we're over time. Donegal, and the other one against Meath?
Donegal.
That's it. I go for Meath. I just don't want to agree with John O'Dowd on anything this evening. So if he said Meath, I was going to say Donegal. I think Meath have a chance. It's more than likely that Donegal win it now, in fairness. And I'm not being flippant. But I do think Meath have beaten Dublin, beaten Galway, isn't it? Beaten Kerry. So lads, they're fair performers. So I would be wary of them. Obviously, Donegal.
And they've been the story of the championship, really.
Yeah, they have, and they have some good players. So I would give just a hesitant vote. If there is to be a shock this weekend, I don't think it'll be Saturday. I think it could be Sunday.
Can I just point out that's more than one word?
Yeah, well, as the presenter and the producer and the director and the put together of this, I'm entitled to those extra few words because I really don't talk too much in this. What are you laughing at? Right. So now that's our Kingdom Calls for this week. Looking forward to a superb weekend in the 2 All-Ireland finals, but in particular, we're hoping that Kerry, Jack O'Connor, Cian O'Neill and the lads, Aidan and all his backroom staff, along with the Gavin White and his team, can go along and win and reach an All-Ireland final. To be great to be chasing tickets. And John Kennedy will supply him here to the panel as a former All-Ireland medal winner. He gets a couple of dozen every year. So I'm sure he'll look after us if we do win. But we can't take the second last hurl before, the last hurl before taking the second last. You've got to jump them all. So here's wishing Kerry well, and a big Kerry support as well to travel. They did against Armagh, and I'm sure they're going to go up again this coming weekend, because let's face it, there is no chance for most people of getting one for the All-Ireland final. So enjoy the weekend, enjoy the game, and may the best teams win. And we'll be back next week to have a look back, a post-mortem. Hopefully it'll be looking forward to the final of whoever gets through, because it's going to be one of those weekends that it's going to be heated because of the weather, and it probably also a little heated on the pitch. Talk to you again in a week's time.